Welcome to Compose Yourself, the podcast where academic writing meets self-discovery for the students at the Chicago School.
I'm Jason.
And I'm Cindy.
Whether you're crafting your first essay or refining your voice as a writer, we're here to guide you through the art of composition.
From brainstorming to final drafts, we'll break down the tools and techniques to help you think critically, write effectively, and express yourself with confidence.
So, grab a pen, open your mind, and
compose yourself.
Welcome to Module 6. So this is the dreaded APA episode. Dun, dun, dun. In all seriousness, we're going to talk about what APA is, why it is used, and what expectations the audience has regarding APA. We will also talk about the concept of synthesis, and we're going to briefly mention how you can evaluate other texts as a source of evidence. But I think just really to start it off before we dive too deeply into it, Cindy, why do you think formatting styles like APA have such a bad reputation?
Because their rules are fussy. It's like we have to indent this. You need an extra line, blank line here, but not here. You can, the date has to be format. It's fussy. There's a rule for everything, and students feel very bogged down by that sometimes. And there are different styles. There are different citation styles. So we use APA here at the Chicago School. The social sciences generally do. But if you write, say, for publication in a journal, they're not going to use APA. They're going to use something else. If you're in the humanities, you're going to use MLA. And many students who come into our undergraduate program will have written like a research paper in an English class, and they may have used MLA citation. So making that transition from MLA to APA can be a bit bumpy. And it's like, well, why does it matter? As long as I'm telling you where I got stuff, why does it matter what style I'm using? So I think it's difficult for students because it's detailed and it's a bit tedious.
Right. And to be honest, I always tell students it is for us too.
Mm.
It's not, I don't know many researchers who have every single rule memorized. Like we're still going and referring back to the guides to say, wait, did I do this or that? Or
Right.
we just know where to go now, right?
And I work in the writing center, so I read papers every day to help students with their writing. So I'm looking for all those, are you adhering to all these rules? So I maybe am part of the group of people who know APA rules perhaps more than most because I have to help students adhere to them. And I still have to look things up every single day. Like I'm on the APA's website. I'm on the Office of Student Writing and Learning's website. Like you're not going to memorize everything, but you are going to know when you need to know something. That's sort of like what all learning is, right? It's not knowing everything. It's knowing how to find what you need to know when you need to know it. And our students have now entered into the part of their academic career where they need to know APA. So they need to know where to find stuff.
Right, right. And I want to get to that. So I just want to then offer a very brief summary because some people think that, oh, this just refers to how I, format maybe my sources.
Yeah.
But APA style is a lot larger than that. So it is, yes, how you are documenting your sources, your citations, your references, but it also goes to even how you format your paper, like what it looks like, how it is structured. Where do I put page numbers, if at all? Where do I put my name? How do I do a title page, if at all? So it's it's more holistic. It's a lot larger than just how do I write this specific citation, right? So with that in mind, what resources are available to help students?
Well, luckily, the Chicago School has rich resources out there for students as it pertains to APA. So we're going to be directing our students within the Canvas course. We're going to be directing them to some resources to help them learn APA. So we have some pre-recorded webinars on APA basics, like how to set up your paper, how to do in-text citation, how to create the references list, where to go to find out more information. So the Office of Student Writing and Learning really is the go-to for the Chicago School students. So we have a great website, which will be linked in the Canvas course. You can also reach us through the Academic Support Hub. It's going to take students straight to our website to show them, we have truncated some of the rules that our students need the most from the APA's website to our website. So I always direct students there first because they're more truncated things, meaning we've condensed some of it. We've picked the stuff that they need the most. There's an APA paper, student paper template, so they can download it and just
Oh,
use it
that's neat.
every
That's
time.
neat.
So it's already set up, shows you where do I put my name? Where do I put the program I'm in? What do I put the title of my paper? So all of that's there. You just fill it in with your own text. So that's available for download on our website. There's also like, how do I make a reference listing for a journal article or a website? That kind of information is there too, along with webinars, making an appointment with a writing tutor or coach. I mean, there's just like a lot of things on our website. But I also want to make sure that we direct students to the APA's style guidelines website. So that'll also be linked in the Canvas course so they can get there as well, because it really does have a lot of information. More fully than they're going to find on our website. Ours is geared mostly towards students, and then the APA's website has more information on it. But we are there to really support their development. So in this video, we're not really going over like how do I set up my paper? How do I cite a source? You can get all of that information on our website, the Office of Student Writing and Learning's website. You can find pre-recorded webinars, and then there are actually live webinars being given most terms at the Chicago School. So if they go
Okay.
to the Office of Student Writing and Learning's website, there's a calendar on that homepage, and you can find a webinar to attend live if that's really like the mode you learn the best. So that will always be available to students too.
That's great. And I think I like that these resources are available because I also like to point out that, especially in Composition 1, we don't expect perfection,
Right.
right? Like this type of stuff is like writing the Tour de France. And right now we're just saying, hey, can you pedal the gears on a tricycle? Um, just try, like just get out there, just try, do your best, of course.
Hmm.
And always, we don't want to, have any instances or accusations of plagiarism. So yes, please always cite your sources, but just do your best. And if a comma's not in the right place, or you forget a period, or you haven't italicized something properly, that's our job, is to show you.
Hmm.
Um, just try, check out these resources. You're going to be okay. It's going to take a while until you kind of feel natural in that APA environment.
It will totally come though. It will. The
It
more you
does.
use something, it's like the more you do anything, the more natural it becomes to you, and you don't have to think about it quite so hard, and you learn the rules. APA is the same way, but we just need to get our students to like prioritize it. So the reason I say that is because APA is not just a bunch of fussy rules that academics use to be special. It's the way we talk in our discipline. It's the way that we write and
Great.
communicate with each other. So, like, it's also a way that you start to own your academic identity. As an academic writer in the social sciences, we use APA. If I open your paper, I am reading it visually before I read one word. I know if the title page looks
So
like
true.
APA style. I know if you've used indenting the first line of every paragraph. I know if you have a references list and I can see an author and a date along that left-hand margin. Those are cues that tell me I understand the rules that we use in this discourse community, and I give them value, and I take my writing seriously. I can tell that before I read a word. I'm not saying it has to be perfect to tell me that you care about your writing. I'm saying when you start to pay attention to those details as a reader, I can see that you're part of this discourse community. It's when students think, oh, these rules are
Great.
silly. I don't have to adhere to them. I don't want to mess with that. Um, that can be difficult to take that writing and say, okay, are you taking it seriously that in this community, this is how we write?
Right. I mean, it reminds me, I might sit around at home reading a book, in my pajamas and my Nirvana t-shirt. I'm not going to an interview that way
Right.
because I know that that's the very first thing that they are going to see and notice. So I put on something, I look a little more formal. And that indicates, before we even have the interview, before we even speak to each other, that indicates that I am taking this seriously and
Right.
that you should take me seriously. So yeah, I like it's more than just that. I like that.
And I take
Frame it.
myself seriously.
Right, right.
Like the way I present myself on the page is I also take myself seriously as a writer and as a scholar. I belong in this course. I belong, you're talking about yourself too as you
Mhm.
write and the way you present yourself on the page because a reader sees the writer on the page. So I think that's important for students to remember when they're like grappling with all of these rules.
So, do you think then, because we do have all of these tools and every year there are more and more tools to help us. Do you think AI can do a good job of kind of fixing your APA on your page, like if you wrote a paper?
It's getting better. It is not perfect. So even the tools that you like, if you go to the library's website and it has like, you pick an article that you want to read and it has a cite this button, and you can even tell it that you want it to be an APA 7th edition. It will almost always be incorrect in some way, even the library's website.
Mhm.
If you use ChatGPT or you use like EasyBib or whatever, they're almost always wrong in some way, meaning they're going to capitalize something that shouldn't be capitalized. They're not going to put italics in a place where there should be italics. They're probably going to put the date in the wrong place. It's just something's going to be wrong. So use the tool. I would never say, no, you should create every reference listing from scratch. Do not do that to yourself. Use the tools, but understand that the next step, just like we're trying to get you to understand in every writing task, the next step is revision, right? You're gonna have to look at
Yep.
them and compare them
Yep.
to the APA's website and see if they're correct and make those edits. When it comes to in-text citation, um, AI tools are not great at this. They often will show, like, they can show you how it's supposed to be formatted, but they're not always very good at, like, you can't tell it, cite from this source and, like, insert it into your paper very easily. It also can flag AI detectors. So I would be very
That's true.
cautious about using AI tools to help with, like, in-text citation. I think it's great to ask it formatting questions. I think you can ask AI questions about, like, rules, other rules like do I need to capitalize
Yeah.
this or whatever, and it's pretty good at that. Um, but obviously, anything that's submitted in the body of that paper needs to be original.
Right, right. And I always tell my students the same thing. Like, I get you want to save yourself time. I do too. So I don't, fine, go ahead and do that. But please, 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 please double and triple check.
Correct.
And that's so much easier to do, right? Just pull it up on the website right here. Oh, this is like I even tell my students, let's say that you found this, and I would write journal. And then the next one I found website, whatever it is. And then I just go to the writing center and I say, okay, yep, oop, I need to correct that, and I correct it real fast.
Right.
That need to correct this a little bit. It still does save you time, but just be
It
diligent.
absolutely does. And you still learn. So that's what I think students miss is that when I take that extra time to compare, like to look at them side by side, okay, something's not capitalized that should be or whatever, and I make those corrections. If I keep doing that, I'm gonna be able to stop having to pull up the other website and I'm gonna be able to correct those from my memory because now I know what it's supposed to look like. So it's like also
Exactly.
not missing that learning piece that you get when you do editing and revision. Um, because I think it's important to remember that anything that you copy paste from a tool should be checked for accuracy and reliability. And so think about
Right.
that. If it's taking me this long to go through and check and edit all of my references list that was created by a tool, if you have a paragraph of text written by ChatGPT and you need to go check everything for reliability and accuracy, you probably just doubled your work time anyway,
Right.
versus
Right.
writing it yourself. So I think about it too as like use the tools where they do save you time. If you're using them correctly, they save you time. That is not going to be true if you're writing a page of text and you're using it correctly. It does not save you time because you need to go check all of
Absolutely.
those things. And you need to paraphrase everything it put out into your own words to submit original text. So, does AI help you? Yes and no, depending on the task.
Evaluate it efficiently, right? Get that experience. Um, all right, I'm gonna try to keep this short because we want to make sure we're staying and honoring student time. But our next subject we need to speak about is this idea of synthesis
Mm,
then. Um, because you're going to hear that word, it's one of the requirements. And the further along you get into academic writing, you're going to have to synthesize a lot. So really, I guess we need to begin with the definition. Cindy, in your mind, what is synthesis? How would you define it?
I think synthesis is bringing multiple pieces of evidence, let's say, into conversation with one another. So it's citing multiple sources and then telling your reader why those things come together to make a supportable argument of some kind. It's bringing in evidence from different sources to support your own argument, essentially.
That's a good one. I like that definition. It kind of reminds me of, I always tell my students the dinner party analogy is the idea that let's say that you arrive late to a dinner party and it's already been going on for an hour or two. Um, I might take my seat and turn to the person to my left and say, hey, catch me up real fast. What's going on? So that's kind of their lit review, which we'll talk more about later. But they'll very briefly, in their own words, condense and say, hey, here's what we've been talking about.
Hmm.
And then there's a pause in the conversation. And now I have my own time to make a claim. I'm going to acknowledge what that person said. I might acknowledge what, the person over there said. So I'm going to bring those two things together. But I'm also doing something unique on my own. I'm going to offer my own take, right?
Hmm.
Synthesis isn't just if I just paraphrased what person A and person B said, well, everybody heard that. Like they don't need me to
Right.
paraphrase it. They want to say, okay, so what? Why are you bringing these together? Or what's your point? They might look at you like, so what? What's the point? That's that act of synthesis. So I
Yeah.
think that's a good analogy, really, that just shows that it is this creation of something new based upon your observations or your experiences or the evidence you found that you're combining in a unique way,
Hmm.
right? Um, and I also think it's important to say that you know, you have to make sure that you're connecting your evidence to your thesis or topic, which we've kind of alluded to before. But in your mind, Cindy, what does APA have to say about synthesis? Or what are the two even related? Is what do they have to do with each other?
Well, they are because APA has very specific guidelines around how you incorporate source material. So in APA style, well, let's take a step back. So let's say students are familiar with MLA style, where they did a high school paper or something like that. Um, it would be totally common to have a topic sentence, quote directly from a text, and then talk about why that what that quote means and why it's useful in your own argument or your, whatever your paper is about. APA
Mhm.
style does not favor direct quotation. So it takes it a step further. Not only do you have to bring in source material that may support each other, so you want to be like citing more than two sources in a paragraph, you have to put them in your own words and you have to summarize and paraphrase because APA style does not favor a lot of direct quoting. And there are reasons for that. APA doesn't care how somebody said something. They care what did they
Oh,
find in their research and when did they do the research, right? In MLA style, let's say in a literature class, we care how somebody said something, right? Because
mhm.
language is everything to us. So we're going to directly quote, we're going to talk about why it was great that they said it that way. Not so in social science research. We don't care how they said it. We care what did they do, why does it matter, and when did they do it, right? So our
Right.
paraphrase and summarizing and the way that we cite using that author date citation system shows what we value in that system. So synthesis really goes a step further in that, yes, you still need to have a main idea and an example or a quote or, a citation of some kind and then analysis of that and then transition to your next paragraph. You still need to do that. Pin this in. The meal paragraph is on the Office of Student Writing and Learning website.
I can
Um,
just quickly show it
Yes.
right here.
So, I mean,
You
you're
see that
still
upside
going to
down
do
pyramid?
this. You're still going to have this upside down pyramid idea. Just remember that in that evidence, you're not going to be dropping a direct quote all the time. You might have to do that if you're, trying to share something from, let's say, the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual, and you can't say it a different way, or you're citing a code of ethics and you want to directly quote. You might have to do that, but it should be rare. It should not be common. So, in that evidence part of the pyramid, you're going to be putting things in your own words and trying to use multiple sources.
So really that in that sense, synthesis is really important. It's
Yes.
necessary for academic writing and for APA guidelines, right?
Hmm. Yep.
Okay, so then our final topic, when we invite these researchers to our own dinner party. So when we were like bringing them in, um, we also want to make sure that we've thought about whether or not they are a good voice, whether they are credible. Because imagine if I'm having the dinner party and I invite someone in, and then that person completely embarrasses me. Who am
Right.
I going to reflect upon? Why did you invite this person? What are they talking about?
Well, they're
Um,
just spreading disinformation. It's fine.
right. I mean, but that can happen. Your
Right.
credibility is on the line. And flip side of that, are you appealing to your audience's sense of ethos if you are not using credible evidence?
Right. Good question.
So we only have a couple of minutes left, but let's briefly look at Da, 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 da. Something called the CRAP test. There are many different acronyms and terms. They all achieve the same thing. In
Hmm.
fact, your readings have, kind of like a different tier list.
Hmm.
It's all the same, but I had an English teacher friend who told me everybody likes crap and everyone can remember crap. So that's why we use it. Um, so, Cindy, what really stands out to you when you look at something like the CRAP test?
Well, I think in APA style, you have to think about currency because APA generally
Mm.
does, the disciplines that use APA, sciences, social sciences, they do care how timely is the research. You don't want to be going back into if you're talking about research, you want to keep it fairly recent. And your instructor might have rules about how old a source can be, but timeliness really is key. But one thing that really jumps out to me is authority. I really think students could apply this just to their daily lives. Like if you're looking at TikTok and you're
Great,
like,
great.
why is this person an authority on this topic? What makes them an authority? Do they have a background in this topic? Do they have credentials? Do they, like, why should I believe them about this topic? I think we should ask that question when we watch the news, when we look at something on social media. This is engaged citizenship, people. It's like looking at why do
Yes,
these people get to
yes.
tell me something that I believe? And looking at websites, like looking at that page to see who's behind the website, looking at the about page, like who's writing, what's their authority. And then to me, that's like really key. Why does this person get to write? Like, what about you, Jason? What jumps out most to you?
I mean, I want to build up on that and kind of go back to when we did that rhetorical analysis of the cigarette ads. It's something kind of like accuracy. Where does this information come from? So you're telling me that I'm supposed to accept that the information is accurate about the health effects of smoking from a company whose job it is to sell cigarettes.
Hmm.
Right? Like had I done the crap test on those ads, I would have instantly known, okay, there is something wrong here, especially with the authority and the accuracy. And I think you even brought up like, oh, well, they make this claim with numbers, but they didn't cite it.
Mm-hmm.
So how can I go double check and make sure that their information is accurate?
Right.
And then that purpose, right? Like they try to sit there and act as if this is some kind of informational. Like their purpose is to inform me about the health benefits of smoking. It's an advertisement. I know what they're trying to do. I know what they're trying
Mm-hmm.
to achieve. So I think this is just an easy way to see how you can kind of quickly run down the risks, the list of currency, relevance, authority, accuracy, and purpose to help make sure that you are bringing the best people to the dinner party, that you're including like the highest and strongest sources you can in your writing and argumentation.
And this really helps too because if you're using APA style and you can't answer one of those, like, I don't know when they wrote it, it doesn't have a date. I don't know what their credentials are, they didn't list
Mhm.
them. If those things are not present and you get to like three of them that you can't figure out, it might not be a reliable source to be considered in an
Right.
APA style writing. So those are really helpful. We want to be thinking about what's the purpose? Why are they writing this? When did they do it? And if we can't answer those, that might be a flag.
Absolutely. All right. So I know from personal experience how frustrating and tedious all these different formatting styles can be. But I hope our conversation today, kind of helped you take a step back to look at that big picture to see what impact it has upon you, what impact it has upon your audience, and why we use these, like why APA is so important in our academic discourse community. Next week is the final podcast for this course. I'm very excited. You are almost there, almost at the finish line. So we will see you then.
Thanks for joining us on this episode of Compose Yourself.
Remember, writing is a process, and every word you write brings you closer to becoming the writer you want to be.
We hope you enjoyed today's discussion and that it makes clearer the topics you're exploring in this course. If you have any questions or comments, please reach out to your instructor.
Until next time, keep thinking critically
And always compose yourself.